Gavin Sinclair's muscles tensed as he demonstrated an armbar to his advanced self-defense class. "The key is control," he said, his voice steady and firm. "One wrong move and your opponent can break free, or you can break their arm." The students watched intently as he executed the move with precision, born of years of special forces training. His partner, a burly man in his 30s, tapped out immediately. "That's enough for today," Gavin announced as he helped his partner up. "Remember, these techniques aren't toys. They're tools of survival." As the class dispersed, Gavin checked his phone. No messages from Diana. Again, his jaw tightened imperceptibly. 3 missed dinners this week alone. He tucked the phone away and began cleaning up the gym equipment. "Dad!" Isabella's voice echoed through the gym. His daughter bounded in, her university backpack slung over one shoulder. Her presence lightened the weight in his chest. "Shouldn't you be studying?" he asked, pulling her into a quick hug. "Taking a break. Besides, I wanted to see the famous ghost in action." She grinned, using his old military nickname. Gavin's expression softened. "That was a lifetime ago. Tell me about Afghanistan again. The mission where you saved that entire village." "Another time," he replied, his tone leaving no room for argument. Some memories were better left buried. At home, Gavin found Diana in their bedroom, focused on her phone. She barely glanced up as he entered. "Julian thinks we can expand to 3 new locations by next quarter," she said, her fingers flying over the screen. The numbers look promising. Gavin's gut tightened at the mention of Julian Cross. Something about Diana's childhood friend had always set off his internal alarms. "You missed dinner again," he said. "Work runs late sometimes," Diana replied, still not looking up. "You understand, don't you?" The question hung in the air between them. Diana finally met his gaze, her expression unreadable. "What's that supposed to mean?" she asked. "Nothing," Gavin replied as he turned away and headed for the shower. He had learned in combat that timing was everything. This wasn't the moment to push. Later that evening, Rory Anderson's voice crackled through Gavin's phone. "Beer? You sound like you need one." Gavin glanced at Diana's empty spot on the couch. She had left an hour ago, muttering something about inventory. "Your shop in 20, Rory continued. Rory's automotive repair shop smelled of oil and metal, a familiar comfort to Gavin. They sat on worn chairs with cold beers in hand. "Spill it," Rory said, wiping grease from his hands. "You've got that look." "What look?" Gavin asked. "The one you had before that utterly ridiculous fiasco." Rory took a long pull from his beer. "Something's eating at you." Gavin stared at his bottle. "Diana's different, distant, always with her phone. Always with Julian. That slippery fellow's been hanging around her shop a lot lately. My cousin works across the street. He sees him there almost daily." Gavin's grip tightened on his beer. "She says it's business. Franchise plans. And you believe that?" "I believe everyone shows their true colors eventually." Gavin's voice carried the cold edge that had earned him his nickname. Rory shifted uncomfortably. "Just don't do anything rash. Remember what happened to Martinez when he accused his wife without proof." "I'm not Martinez." Gavin stood, his movements controlled. "And I never act without proof." At home later, Gavin found Isabella in the kitchen, her books spread across the counter. She looked up, concern etched on her face. "Mom's still out," she said quietly. "Dad, I need to tell you something," she began, but before she could continue, the front door opened. Diana walked in, her designer purse clutched close, and startled upon seeing them both. "Oh, I didn't expect anyone to be up," she said, smoothing her hair. Gavin noticed a slight smudge on her lipstick. His military training kicked in as he catalogued the details, the way she held her purse, the faint scent of unfamiliar cologne. "Working late again?" he asked in a neutral tone. "Julian and I finally closed the deal on the new location," Diana said, moving toward the stairs. "I'm exhausted. Don't wait up." As she disappeared upstairs, Gavin turned to Isabella. "What were you going to tell me?" Isabella hesitated, then shook her head. "Nothing important, just stressed about finals." Gavin watched his daughter gather her books, recognizing the lie, but choosing not to press. He had taught her well. Timing was everything. In bed that night, Gavin lay awake, listening to Diana's measured breathing beside him. His mind replayed countless missions, times when his patience and precision had meant the difference between life and death. He had earned his nickname by becoming a ghost, invisible until the moment he struck. If Diana and Julian were plotting something, they'd learned that old habits died hard. The next morning, Gavin received a text from Rory. "Need to talk. It's about Julian." "On my way," Gavin replied, his expression unchanging as he grabbed his keys. Diana called out from the kitchen. "Early class today." "Something like that," he answered, closing the door behind him. In his truck, Gavin's phone buzzed again. A message from Isabella. "Dad, please come home early tonight. Important." He started the engine, his mind already mapping out scenarios and contingencies. Years of combat had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now, they were screaming that his family's peaceful facade was about to shatter. As he pulled away from the house, Gavin caught a glimpse of Diana through the window, phone pressed to her ear, gesturing animatedly. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. She wasn't the only one who could keep secrets. Rory's house pulsed with laughter and music. Gavin sat on the back porch, nursing his second beer, half listening to stories about problem customers at the repair shop. His phone sat silent on the table. No messages from Diana or Isabella. "Man, you should have seen this guy's face when I told him the transmission was shot." Rory chuckled, gesturing with his bottle, and launched into a tale about how his cousin's friend's brother could fix it for half the price. Gavin nodded absently, his attention drawn to a text notification that finally lit up his screen. An unknown number. He opened it. "Mr. Sinclair, Heritage Hospital. Your daughter Isabella was just admitted to emergency care." The bottle slipped from his hand, shattering on the deck. Rory jumped. "Gavin, what's wrong?" "Isabella," Gavin replied, already moving, keys in hand. Heritage Hospital. The drive blurred past as his military training took over, controlling his breathing and keeping his mind sharp despite the fear clawing at his chest. He took dangerous corners with muscle memory from combat driving courses guiding his every move. At the hospital, he strode to the desk. "Isabella Sinclair?" the nurse asked, startled by his intensity. "Room 342, she replied. But Gavin was already gone, taking the stairs in haste. He found the room and pushed through the door to see Isabella lying pale against white sheets, bruises darkening her face. A doctor was checking monitors nearby. "Dad," Isabella whispered, her voice tight with pain. "What happened?" Gavin demanded as he moved to her side. His hands hovered over her, afraid to touch and cause more pain. The doctor cleared his throat. "Miss Sinclair suffered multiple injuries consistent with a fall downstairs, a concussion, 3 broken ribs, and a fractured wrist." Gavin's voice turned deadly quiet. "Tell me." Tears welled in Isabella's eyes. "I came home early from university. I overheard Mom and Uncle Julian in the kitchen. They were talking about your accident, the one they were planning." Gavin's world narrowed. "Continue." "I started recording on my phone, but those men saw me. Big guys I'd never seen before. They came after me. I tried to run. They pushed me down the stairs. They took your phone." "Dad," Isabella cried, grabbing his hand. "Mom and Julian. They were planning to kill you, to make it look like an accident." Gavin squeezed her hand gently, his face a mask of control. "Rest now. I'll handle this," he vowed, his inner rage cold and precise. The doctor interjected. "Mr. Sinclair, the police will want tow." "Later," Gavin said firmly, kissing Isabella's forehead. "I'll be back soon." The drive home felt surreal. Gavin's mind raced through scenarios, evaluating threats and planning responses. His training hadn't just taught him to kill, it had taught him to hunt. The house stood dark and silent. Inside, drawers in the bedroom were left open and clothes were missing from Diana's closet. Moving through each room, Gavin gathered evidence. In Diana's home office, he discovered a hidden folder behind a filing cabinet. Inside were insurance policies, bank statements, and emails between Diana and Julian, detailed plans for what they called the transition, his death, and their new life together. They had thought of everything, except one crucial detail: never underestimate a ghost. Gavin's phone buzzed. "Rory." "Gavin. Where are you? What's happening?" "Need to see you. Now." "Jesus, you sound." "I'll open the shop," came the reply. At the repair shop, Gavin laid out the documents on Rory's workbench. Rory's face grew darker with each page. "Those rotten scoundrels," he breathed. "We're calling the cops, right?" "Not yet," Gavin replied, his voice eerily calm. "First, we gather more evidence, build an airtight case." "Gavin." Rory ran a hand through his hair. "I know that look. The one you have when you're thinking. It could ruin everything. Your life, Isabella's future. They tried to kill me." Gavin turned to his friend. "Worse, they hurt my daughter. You know what that means." Rory sighed. Yeah, I do. Just promise me one thing. Don't let the ghost take over completely. Remember who you are." "I remember exactly who I am," Gavin replied as he gathered the documents. "That's what they forgot." A knock at the shop door interrupted them. Detective Lucas Monroe stood outside, notepad in hand. "Mr. Sinclair, I need to ask you some questions about your daughter's accident." Gavin opened the door. "Of course, Detective. Happy to help." Lucas flipped open his notepad. "Heritage Hospital reported suspicious circumstances. Do you have any idea who might want to hurt your daughter?" "None," Gavin replied, his face betraying nothing. "Although I did hear that my wife's friend, Julian Cross, might have some helpful information." "Julian Cross." Lucas scribbled the name. "I'll look into it. Anything else?" "Not yet," Gavin said, meeting the detective's eyes. "But if I think of anything, you'll be my first call." After Lucas left, Rory touched Gavin's arm. "You're planning something." "Planning?" "No." Gavin's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I'm already executing." Back at the hospital, Gavin found Clara Baxter, his neighbor, sitting with Isabella. Clara jumped up when he entered. "Oh, Gavin, I came as soon as I heard. Those strange cars I've been seeing at your house. I should have said something sooner." "Strange cars." "Black SUVs with tinted windows, showing up about 2 weeks ago, always late at night." Gavin nodded. Another piece of the puzzle. "Thank you, Clara. Would you mind staying with Isabella a bit longer? I have some business to handle." Isabella caught his hand as he turned to leave. "Dad, be careful. They're dangerous." "So am I," he replied, squeezing her hand. In the hospital parking lot, Gavin made 2 calls, first to his bank to freeze joint accounts, then to an old military contact. "Remember that favor you owe me. Time to collect." He started his truck, checking his mirrors out of habit. In the reflection, he caught a glimpse of his own cold, focused, determined face. Diana and Julian had awakened something they didn't understand. Soon, they'd learn why enemies and allies alike had feared the ghost. Rory's plan worked perfectly. Dennis Hart's car peeled away from his surveillance position the moment the fake tip about Gavin's state-crossing plans hit his phone. Now, Gavin crouched in the woods surrounding the celestial cabin, watching guard patterns through his tactical scope. 8 men, armed with automatic weapons, patrolled the perimeter. They were professional, with military-grade equipment, not common thugs like Quentin Doyle. These were trained killers. Gavin touched his radio. "Rory, you copy?" he whispered. "Here. came the reply. Dennis took the bait. He's heading to the interstate checkpoint. Good. Keep monitoring police channels. If anyone gets suspicious, I'll warn you. Just try not to kill anyone. Gavin didn't reply further. Death wasn't his goal, but he wouldn't hesitate if necessary. His time in Afghanistan had taught him that mercy could be a liability. The first guard fell to a chokehold, dragged silently into the bushes. The second dropped from a precise strike to the throat before he could radio for help. Gavin moved like smoke between the trees, each takedown swift and silent. Inside his mind, a familiar coldness spread. The ghost wasn't just a nickname. It was a state of being. No emotion, no hesitation, only the mission. A guard by the back door reached for his radio. Gavin's knife found the pressure point in his shoulder. The man crumpled without a sound. Status check. Sector 3. Crackled a voice on the fallen guard's radio. Gavin keyed the radio, perfectly mimicking the guard's gruff tone. Sector 3 clear. More guards fell in quick succession, each takedown precise, each body hidden. The last two guards stood by the front door, alert but unaware that their backup had vanished. A rock thrown from the woods drew their attention. As they turned, Gavin struck. One guard's head met the wall. The other tasted his own radio. Inside the cabin, voices argued. Julian's cultured tone had taken on a hysterical edge. This is your fault. If you handled Gavin properly, it's my fault. Diana's voice cracked. You promised this would be clean. Now my daughter's in the hospital. Our daughter won't matter if Gavin finds us. You know what he's capable of. You said he was weak, broken. Gavin's voice cut through the darkness. Let's test that theory. Julian fired his remaining bullets at the sound. Gavin let him empty the gun. 6 shots, Gavin remarked. Poor tactical choice. Click, click. The sound of Julian's empty gun mocked him. Now, Gavin stepped into the dim light. About that theory. Diana scrambled away, clutching a kitchen knife. Julian backed against a wall, his confident facade shattered. Gavin, please, Diana begged. Julian forced me. Save your lies. Gavin's voice was arctic cold. I'm not here to listen. What do you want? Julian tried to sound brave. What do I want? Gavin advanced slowly. I want my daughter to walk without pain. I want the last 15 years of my life back. I want to erase the memory of my wife plotting my death. His hand shot out, disarming Diana before she could raise the knife. The blade clattered away. But since I can't have those things, I'll settle for watching you destroy each other. On cue, another charge detonated. In the flash, Julian and Diana saw Gavin's face, and knew true fear. The ghost had come to collect. Gavin, please. I can explain everything. Diana pleaded, her mascara tracing dark lines down her cheeks. Explain. Gavin's voice cut like a blade. Explain plotting my death, or explain having our daughter attacked. Julian edged toward the door. Gavin's hand shot out, gripping Julian's throat. Sit down. Gavin propelled him onto the couch. You're going to want to hear this. From his pocket, Gavin pulled out his phone. Isabella's voice filled the cabin. They pushed me down the stairs. Mom. Your men. Did you know they would do that? Did you tell them to hurt me? Diana's hands shook. I never meant. Play your victim act for someone else. Gavin pocketed the phone. I've seen the emails, the insurance forms, the payments to Quentin Doyle. It was Julian's idea. Really? Julian sneered. Who suggested using my military history to make it look like PTSD? Who knew my route to work? The best place to stage the accident. Diana lunged at Julian, nails raking his face. You promised me no one would get hurt. Gavin watched them fight, his expression carved from stone. Julian shoved Diana away. She stumbled, grabbing a heavy lamp. You ruined everything. Diana swung the lamp. Julian ducked. Crazy woman. Julian spat. "I gave you an out from your cold, broken soldier," Gavin said. The courthouse steps teemed with reporters as Gavin strode past them, flanked by Rory and Isabella. Inside, the courtroom hushed as they entered. Diana sat with her lawyer, Elena Voss, wearing a modest blue dress that screamed innocent victim. Julian occupied the other defense table, his usual swagger replaced by careful composure. "All rise," called the bailiff. Gavin watched the proceedings with cold focus as the prosecutor, Sarah Martins, approached the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," Martinez began, "this case isn't about love gone wrong. It's about calculated murder for profit, about a mother who chose greed over her own daughter's safety." Elena Voss's opening painted a different picture. Diana Sinclair lived in fear. Fear of a husband trained to kill. Fear of Julian Cross's threats. Fear that kept her silent until now. Gavin's hands clenched under the table. Isabella touched his arm. "She's lying," Isabella whispered. "We all know she's lying." The prosecution's case unfolded methodically. Financial records showed Diana had increased Gavin's life insurance 6 months before the planned accident. Email trails revealed her coordinating with Julian, planning routes and timings. Quentin Doyle testified first, his confidence shattered. "Mrs. Sinclair gave us the security codes, told us when to expect the daughter home. Julian said to make it look like an accident, but she knew everything." Elena Voss's cross-examination turned aggressive. "Did Mr. Sinclair threaten you? Force this testimony?" "No." Quentin's voice shook. "He didn't have to. The truth's bad enough." Detective Lucas Monroe then took the stand. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank transfers, surveillance footage, witness statements, all pointing to a coordinated plot between Mrs. Sinclair, Mr. Cross, and Mr. Sinclair's involvement. Voss pressed, "Your military background, your violent confrontations. Any father would fight to protect his child." "The difference is," Monroe replied, "he did it legally, gathered evidence, and reported crimes. The defendants chose violence first." During breaks, Dennis Hart hovered near reporters, spinning tales of Gavin's supposed instability, but his claims fell flat against the mountain of evidence. Then came Isabella's testimony. "Tell us about that night," Martins guided. Isabella's voice remained steady. "I came home early from university and heard Mom and Julian in the kitchen planning Dad's accident. When I tried to record them, her hand touched my healed ribs. Their men found me." "And your mother's reaction to your injuries?" Martins asked. "She ran, and she ran with the man who ordered the attack." Voss tried deflecting. "Your father's military service, did it frighten you? His capacity for violence?" "The only violence in our home came from Mom's choices," Isabella declared, her conviction silencing the courtroom. "Dad taught me that strength means protecting family. She taught me betrayal." Gavin's testimony followed. Sitting ramrod straight, his responses were measured. "Mr. Sinclair," Martinez began, "walk us through your discovery of the plot." "My daughter's recording revealed their plans. Searching our home, I found documents detailing my proposed accident, insurance policies, route maps, timeline calculations." Elena Voss attacked during cross-examination. "Your military record shows multiple incidents of extreme force. Weren't you simply waiting for an excuse to unleash that violence?" "No excuse needed," Gavin replied firmly. "I followed the law, gathered evidence, protected my daughter. The defendants chose murder and cowardice." Julian's testimony then unraveled their remaining defense. Trying to save himself, he detailed Diana's eager participation. "The insurance was her idea," he insisted. "She knew my schedule, habits, weaknesses. She said my death would solve everything." Diana's facade cracked. "You promised me freedom. Said we'd be together." "Order," thundered the judge's gavel. Rory testified about finding Gavin the night of Isabella's attack. He could have hunted them down, but instead he called the police and gathered proof. Clara Baxter described the suspicious vehicles and late-night meetings. Each witness added weight to the prosecution's case. In closing arguments, Martinez laid out the chain of evidence. The defendants planned murder for money. When caught, they attacked an innocent girl. Their guilt is beyond question. Elena Voss tried salvaging Diana's defense, a woman trapped between dangerous men, forced to choose survival. Survival. Martinez countered. She chose greed over her daughter's life, murder over honesty. There's no defense for that betrayal. As the jury retired, Gavin sat stoically. Reporters clamored for comments, but he remained silent. His vengeance would come through justice, not headlines. Isabella hugged him tightly. Whatever happens, we won. They can't hurt us anymore. Gavin watched as Diana was led back into custody. She tried catching his eye with silent pleading, but he turned away. The woman he had loved was gone, replaced by a stranger who had chosen betrayal. The ghost had brought them to justice. Now the law would finish what betrayal had started. Guilty on all counts, the jury foreman's words rang through the courtroom. Diana collapsed against her lawyer, Elena Voss, while Julian stared blankly ahead. Gavin sat unmoved, his face a mask of stone. The judge's voice cut through the chaos. Defendants will now rise for sentencing. Julian received 20 years for conspiracy to commit murder, assault, and fraud. Diana, despite her lawyer's pleas, got 15 years with no chance of early parole. Outside the courthouse, Leonard Crane faced his own mob of reporters. Federal agents led him away in handcuffs, his empire crumbling under investigation. "You did it, Dad," Isabella squeezed Gavin's hand as they watched the news coverage. "We did it," he corrected. "Your strength made this possible." Rory clapped Gavin on the shoulder. "Ghost finally rests now." "Not yet," Gavin replied as he checked his phone. Another message from the therapy center read, "Some battles take longer to win." The therapist, Dr. Adrian Cortez, specialized in military PTSD and trauma. Gavin had resisted initially, but Isabella's pleas had swayed him. "You fought for me," she had said. "Now fight for yourself." In his first session, Gavin sat rigid, evaluating exits and threats out of habit. "Tell me about Afghanistan," Dr. Elena Morales prompted. "Classified. Tell me about the man who served there, the one before betrayal changed him." Gavin's defenses cracked slightly. He believed in protection, honor, family, and now he knew better. "Does he?" Dr. Elena Morales leaned forward. "Or has he just forgotten how to trust?" Sessions continued weekly. Slowly, Gavin confronted his demons, not just from betrayal, but from years of combat and loss. "The ghost protected you," Dr. Elena Morales noted, "kept you alive. But ghosts don't heal. Men do." Meanwhile, Isabella flourished. Her advocacy work attracted attention from domestic violence prevention groups. She spoke at conferences, sharing their story. "My father taught me that strength isn't about violence," she told one audience. "It's about standing up after betrayal knocks you down." Gavin attended each speech, watching pride replace pain in his daughter's eyes. She transformed trauma into purpose, showing others the path forward. Maya remained by Isabella's side, their friendship deepened by shared battles. Together, they created support networks for other survivors. "You raised a warrior," Maya told Gavin after one event. Veterans groups rallied around him, sharing their own stories of battles fought at home and abroad. One morning, Gavin stood at his gym, watching new students file in for self-defense class. Their eyes held familiar shadows: abuse, fear, betrayal. "First lesson," he announced. "Survival isn't about being fearless. It's about facing fear and standing your ground." Rory visited often, bringing news and normalcy. They worked on cars, shared beers, and rebuilt connections that betrayal had strained. "You're different," Rory observed one evening. "Lighter somehow. Ghosts carry weight." Gavin replied, "Men learn to set it down." Detective Lucas Monroe became a regular visitor too. They had forged an odd friendship through justice and respect. Departments are changing policies, Monroe shared, using your case as a template for handling domestic conspiracies. You made a difference. Isabella graduated with honors, her thesis on trauma recovery drawing academic praise. At the ceremony, Gavin watched her accept her diploma, remembering the broken girl in the hospital bed. "I'm keeping your name," she told him at the celebration. "Sinclair means survivor now." That night, Gavin visited his backyard shooting range one last time. His weapons, the tools of the ghost, lay cleaned and packed. "Time to move on," he told Rory, who helped load them for storage. Some battles end. Isabella's advocacy work grew. Centers reached out, seeking her expertise. She counseled victims, showing them strength through her own recovery. "Your daughter's remarkable," Dr. Elena Morales noted in their final session. "She had found light in darkness. She had found herself." Gavin corrected, "I just kept her safe until she could." Life settled into new rhythms. Gavin's gym expanded, focusing on empowerment over aggression. Students learned to defend themselves while healing old wounds. One evening, Gavin found a letter in his mailbox. Isabella's familiar handwriting covered the envelope. Inside lay a photo. Isabella and Maya at a charity gala, both radiant with purpose. The note read simply, "Thank you for showing me that even ghosts can find redemption." Gavin pinned the photo to his wall next to his military honors, medals that marked battles fought with violence. The photo marked victory through healing. The ghost had earned its rest. The father, the warrior, the survivor remained, scared but whole, ready for whatever came next. "Ready for dinner," Isabella called from the driveway as Maya waved beside her. Gavin smiled, tucking away memories of darker days. Always ready. Together, they drove into the evening, leaving ghosts and shadows behind. Tomorrow held new challenges, but they had faced them as they had faced everything. With strength, with purpose, with unshakable bonds that betrayal had tried and failed to break. The ghost could rest. The man had found his way home. 5 years later, Gavin Sinclair stood at the podium, facing a packed auditorium at the National Conference for Victim Advocacy. His presence commanded attention, not through intimidation anymore, but through the quiet strength of a warrior who had found peace without surrendering his power. 5 years ago, betrayal taught me that ghosts can't heal, he began, his voice carrying to the back row. But survivors can. In the front row, Isabella beamed with pride. Now 30, she had transformed from victim to champion, running one of the country's largest support networks for survivors of domestic violence. Her organization, Rising Phoenix, had helped thousands rebuild their lives. After his speech, Gavin joined Isabella and Maya at their booth. Rising Phoenix's logo, a rising bird formed from broken chains, drew constant attention. 3 new centers opening next month, Isabella reported, her engagement ring catching the light. Maya had proposed last year, surprising no one who had watched their bond grow through adversity. "Dad, tell them about the gym expansion," Isabella prompted. Gavin's Self-Defense Academy had evolved into a nationwide franchise. The Warrior's Path combined training with trauma recovery, helping survivors reclaim their strength. Each location partnered with Rising Phoenix, creating a comprehensive support system. Rory was overseeing the West Coast expansion, Gavin explained. His friend had left the repair shop behind, finding his calling in helping others rebuild. Rory's expertise translated perfectly to teaching defense techniques. Speaking of Rory, he approached their booth with Detective Lucas Monroe, now chief of the reorganized Special Victims Unit. "The police academy is implementing your training program," Monroe told Gavin. "Your case changed everything. We now spot conspiracy patterns early and prevent tragedies before they happen." Their conversation paused as a familiar face appeared on the conference hall's TV screens. Leonard Crane, recently released after serving 4 years for corruption, looked haggard in his interview. His empire was gone. Rory noted with satisfaction. The feds seized everything. He's working as a night manager at a budget motel. Gavin felt no pleasure at Leonard's fall. Justice had been served, and that was enough. How's the book coming? Monroe asked Isabella. Her memoir, Ghosts and Daughters, had sparked a bidding war between publishers. More than just their story, it explored how families recover from betrayal while helping others heal. Final edits next week, Isabella said. The domestic violence chapters were the hardest, interviewing Mom in prison. Diana's name still carried weight, but not pain anymore. She had served 4 years of her sentence and found redemption through counseling other inmates. Her letters to Isabella showed genuine remorse, though some wounds would never fully heal. Julian hadn't fared as well. Prison gangs didn't appreciate his attempts at manipulation. He spent most days in protective custody, writing desperate appeals that nobody read. The university wants to expand the trauma recovery program, Maya added. She turned her psychology degree into a pioneering therapy approach, combining traditional counseling with self-defense principles. Gavin checked his phone. A message from Clara Baxter. Their former neighbor now ran a safe house network, using her natural nosiness to protect people fleeing abuse. Her security cameras had caught 3 stalkers this month alone. Remembered Dennis Hart? Rory asked suddenly. The former private investigator's attempts to discredit you backfired spectacularly. His methods were exposed, his license revoked. Last we heard, he was writing conspiracy theories for a small-town blog. Quentin Doyle had turned his life around, Monroe reported. After serving 3 years, Quentin had become a state's witness, helping prosecute other conspiracy cases. He had even contributed to Isabella's book, showing how enforcers could choose a better path. Fiona Gallagher, Julian's former secretary, followed a similar road. Her testimony had helped convict Leonard Crane, and she now worked as a paralegal specializing in domestic violence cases. The conference center buzzed with activity as more survivors arrived. Each face held a story. Each story held hope. Gavin watched them gather, remembering his own journey from vengeance to healing. His phone buzzed again. Dr. Elena Morales was checking in. Though their official sessions had ended years ago, they had maintained contact. She had helped him understand that strength meant more than power, that healing didn't mean weakness. Your next class is here. Isabella nodded toward a group of women entering the self-defense demonstration area. They moved uncertainly, carrying the familiar weight of trauma. Ready to show them? Rory asked. Gavin stepped forward, radiating calm confidence. First lesson. Survival isn't about being fearless. It's about facing fear and standing your ground. Later that evening, Gavin hosted a dinner at his home. The dining room filled with voices. Isabella and Maya discussing wedding plans, Rory arguing sports with Monroe, and Clara sharing surveillance techniques with Dr. Elena Morales. Remember that first hospital night? Isabella asked quietly as they cleaned up. When you promised to protect me? Always will, Gavin replied. But you taught me to protect myself too, to help others do the same. Through the window, Gavin spotted a young woman leaving one of his evening classes. Her walk showed new confidence, her head held high instead of hunched. Another ghost learning to live again. His phone held a final message, the prison chaplain updating him on Diana. She had earned her counseling certification, helping inmates confront their choices. Some wounds never healed, but some scars became bridges to help others cross from darkness to light. Dad, Isabella called. Maya's parents want to meet about the ceremony. Gavin smiled. Life moved forward, carrying hope instead of vengeance. The ghost had earned its rest, but the warrior remained, not to hunt anymore, but to guard, to teach, to help others find their strength. In his study, medals and memories shared wall space with newer treasures. Isabella's graduation photos, conference keynote badges, newspaper articles about Rising Phoenix's success. A new photo joined them. The entire extended family at Isabella and Maya's engagement party. The image showed no ghosts, no shadows, only survivors celebrating life instead of fearing death, only warriors who had learned that true strength lay in helping others stand. Gavin touched the frame, remembering darker days. The ghost's skills had brought justice, but the man's heart had brought healing. Both were necessary. Both were him. Outside, cars pulled up as more survivors arrived for evening classes, more chances to transform pain into power, fear into freedom. Coming, Dad. Gavin headed out, ready for another night of teaching strength through survival. The ghost could rest eternal now, knowing its vigil had built something lasting. A legacy, not of vengeance, but of victory, not of retribution, but of redemption. After all, he had learned the hardest lesson. True warriors don't just fight battles, they help others win their own. In his desk drawer, Gavin kept one final photo, Diana on their wedding day, young and bright with promise. Not as a torment, but as a reminder that life's greatest betrayals can lead to its greatest purpose. The frame bore a scripture: through darkness to light, through fear to strength, through betrayal to purpose. And below it, in Isabella's handwriting: thank you for showing me that even ghosts can find redemption. But thank you more for showing me that survivors can help others find their way home. Gavin closed the drawer gently. Tomorrow held more battles, not with fists or fury, but with patience and purpose. More ghosts would need guiding toward light. More survivors would need to be shown their strength. He was ready. The ghost had taught him how to fight. Life had taught him why to heal. Both lessons made him whole.